Members go into these homes, we expect to get good care. In this case, that I don't believe that's happened.
They want answers, and they want to hold these corporations accountable.
A lawsuit against a number of long-term care homes is alleging staff were told not to wear masks and that an offer of help from the province was turned down. That will be our top story tonight. It is an exclusive from Lauren Pelly, hearing that a number of people were told that there were problems at these nursing homes and they did not follow some of those instructions. Now, the death toll from COVID-19 in Ontario's long-term care homes is nearing 600 tonight, and Lauren Pelly has this exclusive story.
Mike McCarroll says his childhood home was always filled with music, thanks to his mother, Ruby.
She was a great lady, great person, very socially outgoing, very musical. It's at Anson Place, she would play, she had a keyboard there, not a piano, had a keyboard there and play, like, say, Christmas carols for the other residents. She loved that.
But now the Hagersville care home where Ruby spent her final years is a source of pain for her only son. His 95-year-old mother came down with a fever in March and died in hospital a few days later.
That's when I found out she tested positive for the virus. There's, I believe, 27 deaths now. It seems every day the number of people there passed away is getting higher and higher, and it's staggering.
McCarroll is now the lead plaintiff in a proposed class action lawsuit focusing on Responsive Group, the private provider that operates Anson Place and other facilities across the province, including Earls Court Village in London, Cooksville Care Centre in Mississauga, and Eatonville Care Centre, Vermont Square, and Hawthorne Place in Toronto.
Premier Ford described the situation occurring in long-term care and retirement homes as a wildfire. And the core of this claim is that this is a fire that should never have started.
The statement of claim provided to CBC News alleges staff members at Hawthorne Place in North York were told not to wear even a surgical mask as it would scare the residents, and that one resident who tested positive for COVID-19 was not isolated before getting the results, putting others in extreme peril. It also claims that management at Anson Place was offered a provincial SWAT team of hospital workers to help manage its outbreak, but refused the province's offer.
Anyone who makes that judgment call, I wonder why they're even in charge over at that home.
Responsive Group told us the company will be reviewing the statement of claim, saying it continues to work closely with the government and public health units. Two of its homes, Eatonville and Hawthorne Place, are now getting extra help from the Canadian Armed Forces. McCarroll hopes the increased focus prevents more death.
We've had outbreaks in the past. We'll have outbreaks in the future. So it's about making sure this never happens again.
Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Toronto.
Now, the first Canadian military members have arrived at Ontario long-term care homes. Our cameras were there as a convoy of vehicles arrived at Orchard Villa in Pickering this afternoon. There have been 40 deaths there. It's one of 5 long-term care homes in the GTA that will get support from the military. The others are Eatonville Care Centre in Etobicoke, where 37 residents have died. Altamont Care Community in Scarborough has seen 28 deaths from COVID-19. Hawthorne Place Care Centre in North York, where 9 residents have died, and Holland Christian Homes Grace Manor in Brampton, where there have been 2 deaths. Today, the Minister for Long-Term Care was asked about the criteria used to decide which homes would get military support.
Staffing appears to be the main area of severe concern right now, and that is a major part of how we've determined to go with these 5 homes.
A provincial spokesperson said today that military support may be redeployed to other sites as needed. 2/3 of the COVID-19 deaths in Ontario have been among residents of long-term care homes, and nearly all of those have happened in April. Our Queen's Park reporter Mike Crawley looks at what provincial officials said and did about long-term care over the past few weeks.
It's March 16th, the day before Ontario declares a state of emergency. The Ford government insists it is ready for the pandemic.
Well, I want the people of Ontario to know that we've been watching the situation very carefully. I won't even say day by day, it's really hour by hour.
No one in Ontario has died from COVID-19, and fewer than 200 people have confirmed cases. The province advises long-term care homes to restrict visitors, but doesn't order it. The health minister calls this taking all the necessary precautions to make long-term care homes safe. 2 days later, an outbreak is declared at Pinecrest Nursing Home in Bobcaygeon. 8 more days go by.
We're providing $243 million for surge capacity and virus containment in long-term care homes.
The outbreak at Pinecrest intensifies. By the end of March, 13 people are dead.
We're putting an iron ring of protection around our seniors, especially those in long-term care and retirement homes.
The next day,
we're doing everything we can to make sure that we protect the most vulnerable seniors.
As of April 1st, official figures say 18 residents of long-term care have died and 26 homes have declared outbreaks. Another week passes. Ontario's rate of testing is under fire. It ranks the lowest in the country. Even where there are outbreaks in long-term care, not every resident is being tested.
We need to start doing 13,000 every single day. I want to see every single long-term care facility tested, every patient.
By now, 86 people have died, and there are more than 850 cases among residents and staff. 5 days later,
we're putting all the resources that we have available to long-term care and doing absolutely everything possible that we can.
That night, Eatonville Care Centre announces that 25 residents have died. 2 more days pass.
And today, we're throwing everything we've got at our long-term care homes. We're mobilizing every available resource.
The official long-term care death toll is now 163, and more than 1,400 residents and staff are infected. Over the next few days, grim scenes like this are repeated across the province. The death toll accelerates daily and surpasses 400 on the day that Ford asks the Army to help.
By no means are we sitting back and not putting every single resource we can in long-term care.
The next day, the long-term care death toll tops 500. 1 out of every 5 homes in the province has an outbreak, and Ford is asked if the province failed.
Right now, our main focus is to make sure that we protect the people inside these long-term care homes.
It's now been 3.5 weeks since the Premier promised that iron ring around seniors. Since then, more than 500 residents of long-term care homes have died. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
The airport would have been the first point of protection, let's say, and it's still not happening.
Is Pearson the one spot in the GTA where social distancing just doesn't exist? Workers at the airport are sounding the alarm, fearing for their health. We'll bring you that story coming up in about 5 minutes. Nova Scotia RCMP have revealed new details about last weekend's horrific rampage that left 22 people dead. They offer a timeline of how the deadly events unfolded over 13 hours before the suspect was killed. Police say they are investigating multiple theories about the attacker's possible motive. But as Simon Dingley tells us, the violence started with a domestic assault.
To call this a tragedy would be an understatement.
Finally, in-depth details of last weekend's deadly Nova Scotia rampage. The RCMP confirms it began when gunman Gabriel Wortman had a violent confrontation with his girlfriend Saturday night, beating her and restraining her in his home in Portapique.
It was a significant incident. It was a significant assault. And this individual female did manage to escape. And that could very well have been the catalyst to start the chain of events.
Fearing for her life, she hid in the dark in the woods for several hours.
It was only after 6:30 in the morning or daybreak when a victim emerged from hiding after she had called 911.
Police say she provided critical details for the manhunt Sunday morning that eventually led to the gunman's capture.
He was in possession of a fully marked and equipped replica RCMP vehicle and was wearing a police uniform. We also learned that he was in possession of several firearms that included pistols and long-barreled weapons.
This was his killing field. 13 people murdered in a 2 square kilometer area of Portapic. 12 hours later, police began receiving more calls from another region 60 kilometers away, where several more people had been murdered. A short time later, RCMP Constable Chad Morrison was waiting on a highway to meet Constable Heidi Stevenson.
The approaching police vehicle was actually driven by the gunman. The gunman pulled up beside Constable Morrison and immediately opened fire. Constable Morrison received several gunshot wounds.
Morrison survived, but fate was not as kind to Constable Stevenson, who collided head-on with the gunman's fake police car.
The gunman took Constable Stevenson's life. He also took Constable Stevenson's issued sidearm and her magazines.
He set their vehicles on fire. A passerby stopped and was shot and killed. The last victim known to the gunman was killed in her home, where he took off his RCMP uniform and took her car. He stopped to refuel here.
While he's at the gas pumps, one of our tactical resources came to the gas station to refuel their vehicle. When the officer exited the vehicle, there was an encounter, and the gunman was shot and killed by police.
A day, a manhunt, police say beyond compare. Simon Dingley, CBC News.
In order to honor those lives lost, the community has organized a virtual vigil tonight. Nova Scotia Remembers is streaming right now on CBC News Network, our GEM, and our website. There will be musical tributes, messages of hope and support, and community organizers hope it will bring everyone together. Our one special guest that spoke just a few moments ago was Canadian actor Jonathan Torrens. Here's a bit of what he had to say.
Even though it might not feel like it, you are not alone. And you are loved. And even though we can't pretend to understand the pain you're in, we are here to try to find a way to help shoulder some of the burden of this grief. The people in these communities want you to know, watching from all over the world, that they feel your love and support. In fact, it's what's holding them up. So thank you for that.
A Toronto tribute to the victims of the Nova Scotia shootings. Andrea Boyd donned her kilt, grabbed her pipes, and stepped out on her balcony this afternoon. She is from Antigonish, Nova Scotia. Here's some reaction from a neighbor and why Andrea chose this specific song.
It was incredible. It was like heartwarming and heart-moving, and Nova Scotia's in all our hearts right now, so I'm amazed and thrilled with what Andrea just did.
It was a tune that Emily Tuck, one of the victims, had been working on and had posted to the Ultimate Nova Scotia online Kaylee at the end of March. Her father had posted that. And yesterday I came across a video compilation on Facebook of friends and fiddlers from Nova Scotia who had taken that clip of Emily playing the tune and had made a compilation of almost 30 fiddlers playing along with her. And I thought, oh, that's a really nice tune, and it goes on the scale of the pipes, so I'll have a go and learn it and play it in tribute to Emily and to all the victims.
They say she is an incredible piper, and her neighbor said it best there. Our hearts are with Nova Scotia tonight.
For sure, Dwight. And there's just no sound like a bagpipe there. Just absolutely gorgeous. We do have some very lovely weather as well coming towards us as we go into the weekend. It's going to be nice to have some sunshine, and there should be plenty of it for Saturday, okay? The temps kind of similar to today, but actually a little bit milder. So we'll have highs of double digits, but we'll get a little further up. So we were about 10 degrees for the high today. We're looking more like 12 for tomorrow. First half of the weekend, that sun. Late in the day on Saturday, we'll see some clouds increasing. But this next system that's going to be coming by as we go Saturday night into Sunday looks like it's going to push a little bit further south. That is good news for us. And Sunday Sunday may end up being one of those days where half of it is a little wet and cloudy and then it gets better. But I'm going to go into more details on that coming up. These are just your current temperatures that we're seeing. 6 degrees at Oshawa, Markham at 8, Toronto at 8 degrees as well. Some of that precipitation left over from yesterday to the north, and that's why you had cooler conditions, cloudier conditions around Barrie and into Cottage Country. Our next playmaker, the one I'm talking about for the second half of the weekend, back here in the Midwest, but the track now looking like it's going to skirt further south of the lower Great Lakes, and I am very encouraged by that. So tonight, this is what we're looking at with your temperature. Still a lot of cloud cover in there, 7. As those clouds erode, the temperature dropping down, getting closer to freezing. I think we'll hold at about 2 degrees. Tomorrow, sunshine, 12 degrees, late day clouds, Dwight.
Thank you, Colette.
You're welcome.
The weather update is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train.
The City of Toronto has begun its COVID-19 recovery plan, announcing who will oversee the program today.
I'm proud to announce today that Saad Rafi will lead the Toronto Office of Recovery and Rebuild. He is already at work developing our post-COVID plan and is working with Dr. David Mowat, who is guiding the health strategy. In these two individuals, I can tell you that we have found the best 1-2 punch you could possibly find to make sure we have the best plan.
Saad Rafi, you might remember, was the CEO of the 2015 Pan Am Games, and Dr. David Mowat is Ontario's former Chief Medical Officer of Health. They'll be leading the charge of creating a plan to get Toronto back to normal after this pandemic, including working with other levels of government and boosting the city's economy. Tory says Toronto will release details of the plan as they become available. Workers at Pearson Airport say they don't feel safe on the job despite being essential. They say their employers haven't acted on many of their requests for more protection. This as a worker in the duty-free died from the virus. Lisa Shing has more.
For almost 20 years, Beata Betley and Monica Philippek did everything together.
We're in Canada. We don't have that much family, you know, so she was almost like my family, like my sister.
That's why it came as such a shock when Betley heard her friend had died from COVID-19 last week. The last she knew, Philippek had a cough but was feeling better.
One of the family members called us and tell her, us Monica passed away. And me, I was like, which Monica? And he says, like, our Monica, and I was shocked.
The two met at Pearson, working at duty-free, while Betley says she and her colleagues have the proper safety equipment. Others who work at Canada's largest airport say they don't. Video taken this week still shows people standing close together, despite some measures like tape being put on the ground to space them out.
You would think that this being what they call the travel-based disease, where it's spreading basically through travel, that the airport would have been the first point of protection, let's say. And it's still not happening.
Part of the problem, there are about 400 employers at Pearson representing thousands of workers. The union representing baggage handlers, check-in agents, and cabin cleaners says there's a lot of confusion over who's responsible for protecting them. For weeks, Anthony Modarelli has been calling on the Greater Toronto Airport Authority to have passengers line up outside before they check in. They've also asked for plexiglass to be installed at the counters.
We've been asking now for approximately a month and a half, and you know, we're just being told it's coming, potentially, we're still talking about it.
The airport authority says check-ins are staggered and more counters are open to space people out, and it's working on other requests.
We just need to have strict measures in place to protect the health and safety of all the workers, and that's all we're asking for.
Especially now that one of their own has died. He says it's more important than ever. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
Family would receive a bag this size. That size, we've realized, is getting smaller. We can't give out a dozen eggs anymore. We're down to 6 eggs.
Food banks in Toronto and around Canada are seeing a demand like never before, and that's pushing them to the brink. After the break, how hundreds of Canadian celebrities are doing their part in an event this weekend. Details next. Next month's rent will soon be due for businesses struggling to survive the pandemic restrictions. Today, the Prime Minister said a commercial rent relief package has been cobbled together to help keep them afloat.
We've reached agreements with all provinces and territories to lower rent by 75% for small businesses that have been strongly affected by COVID-19 for April, May, and June.
The Canada Emergency Commercial Rent Assistance Program applies to businesses and charities whose monthly rent is under $50,000. It works this way. Landlords would agree to give tenants a 75% reduction in rent and not evict them. In exchange, those landlords would get access to a non-repayable loan to cover half the commercial rent payment. Ottawa and the provinces will pick up the cost of that forgivable loan. That leaves small business tenants owing just 1/4 their usual rent cost. The assistance would be retroactive to April and could be available by mid-May. The demand on food banks is increasing from the largest organization like the Daily Bread Food Bank to the small ones that operate out of church basements. Alicia San checked in with one struggling to feed its community for the first time in 4 decades.
Keeping the shelves stocked at Beaton Cupboard has been a stressful experience lately for Pastor Jenny Feely.
Where we would normally see maybe 20 people, 20 to 23 people on an average a week prior to COVID-19, our numbers have been increasing every single week. This past week we had 43 families lining up.
The food bank has operated out of St. Michael's and All Angels Church on St. Clair for over 40 years, and things have never been this dire.
So, like a family would receive a bag this size. That size we've realized is getting smaller because we need to make the food last. And so what we're able to give people, rather than a whole head of celery, now it's more to sort of 4 or 5 sticks of celery, if we have celery this week.
About 1/3 of Toronto's food banks have closed. Many are run by volunteers and seniors who now must stay home because of the virus. Toronto Public Libraries in some communities have stepped in. But what about Canada's largest food bank?
Can you say that the Daily Bread is keeping up?
I would say that the Daily Bread has adjusted to the increased need, but there's still more that we can be doing. Our demand has increased by 122%.
COVID-19 has exposed just how food insecure many households are.
Individuals who were just, paycheck to paycheck when their position was lost, and before any government assistance arrived, they needed to call on the food bank, and we were here for them.
Pastor Jenny Feely hopes the pandemic also brings out the charity in people.
Reach out to your local food banks, find out where they are, find out where they're trying to still serve the community.
The appeal comes ahead of Sunday's televised Stronger Together fundraiser concert, which aims to raise money for food banks across the country. Alicia San, CBC News, Toronto.
Dozens of Canadian celebrities are taking part in the Stronger Together event this weekend, paying tribute to frontline workers fighting COVID-19. Here's Deanna Sumanek-Johnson with the details.
Stronger Together brings together the who is who of Canadian performers and entertainers. Everybody from Justin Bieber to Serge Ibaka from the Raptors, Ryan Reynolds, Mike Myers, Sarah McLachlan, Celine Dion, just some of the big names that you can catch on this unique benefit for Canada's food banks. Now, what's also unique about Stronger Together is that it brought together Canada's broadcasters, CBC, CTV, the Chorus Networks, Rogers, and dozens of other smaller stations will all be carrying the broadcast and really trying to help out the food banks. Michael Bublé is one of the notable performers. Here's what he had to say about why it was important to put this distinctly Canadian initiative. Here's what he had to say.
Each of us on this conversation, this call, we have privilege. We're lucky, and it's because in many cases of what our country's given us. And so I think it's our duty and our responsibility to do this. I don't think that you get a cookie for being good.
Michael Bublé there reflecting on his privilege both as a Canadian and as a celebrity. Now, of course, Stronger Together is not the only celebrity-led benefit during the coronavirus pandemic. Just last weekend, One World Together at Home managed to raise more than $127 million. Those were corporate donations. This benefit will be asking regular Canadians to donate small sums of money, $5, $10. But the producer of the broadcast also answered my question, and she said that they will make sure to let people know that if they cannot donate anything, to just enjoy the show, that they're well aware that people are financially strapped themselves, and that the event is, yes, about raising money for Food Banks Canada, but really about bringing Canadians together and injecting a bit of joy and entertainment into these difficult times. And people will be able to watch this unique entertainment event everywhere, including on CBC television at 6:30 Eastern on Sunday. That's 7 o'clock in Newfoundland. Deanna Sumanak-Johnson, CBC News, Toronto.
After the break, the NHL tries to figure out a way to get back on the ice safely. That story for you coming up. We'll be right back. It's been more than a month since professional athletes were asked to wait on the sidelines while the world deals with this pandemic. It's left many fans restless, no longer having their favorite sports as a distraction. It has left league officials racking their brains trying to figure out a way to safely bring sports back. CBC's Greg Ross has more.
For McCann, pass across, Hornqvist to Crosby, he scores!
With the future of professional sports still up in the air, people have been looking for other ways to fill the void.
And now they go, Olive away first, but a problem with Mabel's bowl.
Like this BBC commentator who gave us play-by-play of feeding time for his dogs on social media.
How about I do a goal call for you?
Or the Leafs' in-house public address announcer doing personalized goal calls for fans.
Maple Leafs goal scored by CBC's Greg Ross.
While these things have provided a nice little distraction, they can never replace the real thing for fans.
It's really tough. You know, as a fan of this city, you love going to the events and all of that, and it just feels like a part of you is gone.
This is actually my favorite time of the year to watch sports, and it's just nothing there. So
we're missing our Leafs. Our Leafs have got to come back. It could have been their year.
On an NHL conference call with general managers today, Minnesota Wild GM Bill Guerin echoed those sentiments.
We all want to get back on the ice. We all want to get back playing games. And we will when it's safe to do so.
League officials have been looking at ways to safely return.
What the NHL is doing is it's looking at all of its different options for where it could put games without fans.
Hockey Night in Canada analyst Elliot Friedman says the NHL is considering picking a short list of cities to host games.
They're going and looking at all their NHL rinks and saying who could potentially host and could we finish the regular season and what kind of playoffs can we have?
Similar conversations have been happening in other sports like baseball.
They're looking at Arizona, they're looking at Florida.
Blue Jays broadcaster Mike Wilner says Major League Baseball is considering having teams play at their spring training facilities with no fans in the stands, but there's still plenty to work out before that could become a reality.
The worry for me is those bus trips, they're going to have to be overnight trips, there'll be hotels.
Even if they are able to work out the kinks and find a way to return, it's likely going to be months before the first games are played.
We've got to do it when everybody's going to be 100% safe. This is
Greg Ross, CBC News,
times,
Toronto.
But,
There may be no sports happening at Scotiabank Arena, but it's turned into a giant kitchen as MLSC prepares to make 10,000 meals a day for people in need.
We came in here the first day and there was nothing on the floor. It was kind of sad because this would normally be our playoff season and we would be, the crowd would be roaring and the place would be full. As we started setting this up, we looked at it and we said, you know what? This year we're going to be the playoff team.
Yes, you are. The same arena floor where the Raptors won the championship is now one big food production line. The meals will mostly go to the city's most vulnerable through agencies and shelters and will run 5 days a week until June, delivering 500,000 meals from chili to jerk chicken. The operation involves almost 20 chefs and 50 staff and 9 kitchens so that physical distancing can be maintained. In addition to shelters and community agencies, the meals will also be delivered to hospitals during shift changes as a special thank you to our frontline healthcare workers. Trout fishing season opens this weekend in Ontario, and while millions in the province are in self-isolation, one city north of Pickering is concerned the appeal of casting a line may draw crowds to their community. Nellie Collada explains.
It's the time of year anglers in Ontario have been waiting for. The rivers and lakes are stocked, and the trout are jumping.
I go fishing not to find myself, but to lose myself.
But lifelong anglers like Rob Sesta are thinking of staying home this year.
There's other ways to unwind within fishing as well, though, and to relieve that stress, which is even just getting ready for the season. I take a lot of pleasure in tying flies, getting ready for, filling my box full of flies so I can fish later.
Others aren't willing to wait, and it's what worries the small hamlet of Whitevale.
We received an emergency alert. You did, I did, a couple of weeks ago. The premier of this province had it sent out. It said, do not leave your home unless, and it didn't say anything about fishing. And it's the same level of government that has said that fishing season can go ahead. It's illogical.
Located in North Pickering, every year, Main Street, now empty, is filled with parked cars for nearly a kilometer, as hundreds of anglers descend on the community to catch trout that gather near the local dam. This year, the town is asking them to stay home.
The trail in many places is only inches wide, so you cannot practice social distancing. I mean, in the past, we've had breakfasts for them, right? I mean, it's not, there's no animosity with the village and the anglers. It's not the issue. The issue is that we believe that the politicians should be sending one clear message. It's either okay to go out and do what you want, or it's not.
In an email responding to the community's concern, the province says at this time the season remains open, but is encouraging physical distancing, reminding all not to gather in groups, adding the government may reevaluate down the line.
This is a province that has a diverse geography, and it would be absolutely, in my opinion, unfair to simply lock the province down on opening, on the opening of the fishing season. We have to expect adults to behave like adults, and if they're adults with children, we expect them to protect their children. But we expect people who live in one community not to be traveling to another to go fishing.
But even fishing within your own community is now difficult for some. Phil St. Onge lives minutes from Rice Lake near Peterborough. Even though he can almost see his favorite fishing spot from his home, he can't get there.
Something on the side of the lake that I potentially could put my boat in, but there's nothing really. It's all private property or township property and whatnot. Anything that might even look like a launch, they put a barrier across.
The trout season officially opens Saturday and runs until September, which gives anglers a few months to cast their lines. Natalie Collada, CBC News, Toronto.
Not sure if it's angling weather out there yet, but if we have until September, we might get some fishing weather, Colin.
Yeah, I think we're going to do okay a little bit sooner than that, Dwight. At least I hope so. But things are looking pretty good in the weather and our prospects coming up just into the long range. And I'm going to show you that here at the end of this segment. But we'll start you off with what those temperatures look like at the moment. Today's unofficial high for Toronto is 10 degrees. We've come down a couple, so we're at 8 degrees. Look out to the north of us into cottage country. Temperatures a little cooler due to some cloud cover earlier, but also some of those showers that have pushed off more towards the east now. But that certainly kept some of the readings down there, whereas London was up to 11 degrees and 12 degrees back towards Windsor. Those are the current temperatures there. So there you can see a little bit of that light precipitation pushing on towards Kingston and off towards the Ottawa Valley. That will continue heading eastward through the evening hours. We will continue to see this clearing as we go through the overnight, through the GTA and beyond. And because of that, it is going to allow the temperatures to fall off. They'll be above freezing, but very close to it. And further north and back towards the west of the GTA, you will get down towards freezing or even dip just below. But it also is really good news for the sun coming up at 6:20 tomorrow that we're going to have a lot of sunshine. And the sun's setting now at 8:11. So you've got lots of time in there to enjoy it. And you'll be able to. Now, as we get later towards Saturday in the day, overnight into Sunday, the clouds will increase. This is the system I've been talking about for it coming in for the second half of the weekend, but more and more it appears it's going to be tracking and just trying to hug towards the north shore of Lake Ontario, but not having a lot of luck. And that means we'll see maybe some showers early on Sunday, and then hopefully seeing a bit of clearing, or at least the clouds breaking up a little bit for the second half of the day Sunday. So that's going to help the temperature to be a little bit milder too. So a couple of nice days with those readings in terms of our temperatures, and maybe even getting some sun for the second half of the weekend or a portion of it. Now, from Hamilton, Burlington, around towards Niagara Falls, St. Catharines, you're likely going to see some showers from this, but mostly showers and not the heavier rain it had been looking like. So here the projection's putting you around 10 millimeters or so. So nothing too significant there for Sunday. Overnight tonight then, a look at those readings that I mentioned getting close to freezing or at it for Markham. Tomorrow afternoon, though, not only some 12s, but St. Catharines, lucky you, 14 degrees tomorrow afternoon. Late day cloud cover pushing in, so lots of sun to go around. Those showers likely earlier on Sunday, it's looking like, so still 12 degrees for the high. Monday, 12 degrees. Tuesday, 14. This is more like it, right? Yeah, 14, seasonal. And then Wednesday, midweek next week, the next system that could bring some significant rain for us then.
Thank you, Colette.
You're welcome, Dwight.
In the early 80s, everyone in our scene was in the band. We wanted to be rappers so bad, but we were mediocre at best. Now hit it hot, just don't stop.
After the break, Eli Glasner joins us from home with some weekend documentary picks for you. It's going to keep you entertained in self-isolation. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
at some point the team is not going to meet the expectations.
I like the way you think.
What time is it? Game time!
Not a good day for Michael Jordan.
Pittman is now demanding a trade.
The expectations are certainly high.
Sports fans had something new to cheer when The Last Dance arrived on Netflix. The documentary series follows Michael Jordan and the championship Chicago Bulls in their epic run back in '97. It is just one of a few real-life dramas Eli Glasner is highlighting for us this week. So, Eli, I've known you for a long time. I did not know you were a big ball fan like me, buddy.
No, you're right. I'm not. I mean, for me, the Raptors are something you find in Jurassic Park, the movies. But you know what? I am. Now I get it, Dwight. Now I think I'm going to have to start watching because I caught the first 2 episodes of The Last Dance. And any great documentary should be able to transcend the subject matter. And I think that's the case because what's great about The Last Dance, which you can watch now on Netflix, it's not just about the wins and the losses. It's really about the personalities and the inherent drama of this all. So this is about that 97-98 season with the Chicago Bulls, with Michael Jordan, and they wanted to go for one last hurrah, try and get that 6th championship title. And what's interesting is the reason it's called The Last Dance. Well, Phil Jackson, their coach, he put that on the playbook, and because the players knew this was the last time this special group of players would be together. Now, already you think these are pretty good ingredients for a great sports series documentary, but what they add to it, and I think what really elevates it, is the footage. They had 500 hours of 16mm footage following the Chicago Bulls during that season. They've been sitting on these film reels for years, and with that, what you get to see, it's not just the game, it's not just the post-game interviews. We've seen that before. You get to see Jordan in the locker room. You see Jordan on the bus. You see him at the practice, cussing out his teammates, pushing them to be better. And that's what's great. It's not a hagiography. It's not just saying, oh, let's polish the statue of Michael Jordan, saying this is what he was. The good parts, the bad parts, that's how he became the great player we know today.
I am so looking forward to that one. I've saved it to binge on this weekend. Okay, so we're going to switch to another sport here. I haven't been a wrestling fan since The Rock's dad, Rocky Johnson, the pride of Nova Scotia, was wrestling. So now a wrestling doc has caught your eye, Eli. Are you a wrestling fan too?
Well, you know, like I'm a kid of the 80s. I grew up in a time where there was WWF cereal, there were cartoons. I found this in my record collection.
I recognize some of those guys, yeah.
Remember that wrestling album? Look at that. Oh, my God. Anyways, so what this is an amazing series by 2 dyed-in-the-wool wrestling fans, Jason Eisner and Evan Husney, and they've created a series on Crave, which is called The Dark Side of the Ring. Take a look.
There was a period in the wrestling business where if you were crazy on screen, you were crazy off screen. You had to live your gimmick.
I brought out the $60,000 limo.
You had been chosen to be in a secret brotherhood, and you kept those illusions private because it was a code.
And so this tells the real story behind wrestling. Yeah, wrestling is fixed. It's this kind of testosterone-fueled drama, but it's about the egos that are at stake. How do you decide when Hulk Hogan wins, when Randy the Macho Man Savage loses? That's part of what this series is about. And the remarkable thing is how Jason Eisner and Evan Husney got the wrestlers to take them into their confidence. This is like a magician revealing their secrets, talking about how the business really works. Some remarkable episodes. If you want one to start with, check out Montreal Screwjob. It's about how Bret the Hitman Hart lost his title in Montreal. An amazing masterpiece of an episode.
Since you're planning my weekend viewing for me, Eli, might as well throw in a hip-hop doc, hey, buddy? Right? I hear this one's going to be on Apple TV. Let's get a preview of it, though, before you talk about it.
Now here's a little story that I got to tell about 3 bad brothers that you know so well. It started way back in history with that Rock, MCA, and me, Mike D.
All right, so you see Adam Horowitz there, you see Mike Diamond. These are the surviving members of the Beastie Boys. I mean, these are guys who they started hanging with Rick Rubin and Russell Simmons. They fell in love with the hip-hop music and lifestyle, ended up opening for Run DMC and Madonna, and then with Fight for Your Right to Party, they became one of the biggest bands in America at the time. But what's great about this documentary, which is on Apple TV Plus now, it's called Beastie Boys Story, is there is a lot of honesty there. I mean, this is these guys, Adam and Mike, being very honest about their bad behavior, their misogyny, and how they kind of lost their way as artists. Remember that song, Fight for Your Right to Party? This was about them mocking party bros. Then they became party bros. They became the kind of creatures they were trying to make fun of, to the point where they didn't love their music anymore. And then they finally found their voice. All that and more in this great documentary, which popped up now on Apple TV.
You know you're getting old when you're youth. My whole youth, they're documentaries I'm going to watch this weekend. Thank you for that, Eli. Have a good one, buddy.
You're welcome.
After the break, today's Frontline Hero. Stick around for that. We'll be right back. Staff with the University of Toronto Scarborough campus are turning to technology to fill a void in the healthcare sector, creating more personal protective equipment for frontline workers.
I'm a 3D printing hobbyist, as I got my start about 2 years ago when I started playing Dungeons & Dragons. And when I saw on Facebook that Michael Garron Hospital was looking for 10,000 3D printed visors, I immediately got my 2 machines to work. Shortly after, a physiotherapist friend of mine reached out to see if I could print these 3D printed ear guards, as she was wearing a mask all day and it was causing her ears to bleed. So I started making some of these ear guards for her, and I also reached out on Facebook to see if any of my other medical friends were interested in these ear guards. Early on in the process, 2 of my friends, David and Shen, wanted to get involved, so they supplied me with a bunch of 3D printing material and offered to do the deliveries to Michael Garron every week. To date, we've been able to deliver over 200 3D printed visors to Michael Garron Hospital as part of their PPE drive, as well as 150 ear guards to various hospitals such as St. John's Rehab, North York General, St. Michael's, Sick Kids, and Trillium Hospital. It's really exciting to see the UTSC community come together and support this initiative, as I know colleagues such as Elizabeth O'Brien and Adriana Sagro from the UTSC Library Makerspace, as well as Tom Muhlendyke from the Department of Physical and Environmental Sciences, are also putting their 3D printers to work. I'm doing this because I really just want to do something, even something small, to support our healthcare workers. Ultimately, they are the real heroes, and I wanted to do whatever I could to support them. So thank you so much, healthcare professionals.
These innovators are today's frontline heroes, part of a series where we give a shout out to people making a difference during the COVID-19 pandemic. If you would like to share a story about your frontline hero, tag us on Twitter or Instagram at CBC Toronto. Send us a message on Facebook or email us at torontotips@cbc.ca. So, Colette, trying to go for a solo ride just around my neighborhood this weekend. Saturday morning, tomorrow morning, okay for that?
You could do it tomorrow morning, Dwight, and then if it feels good, you could do it tomorrow afternoon. If you're not too sore, you might get one in Sunday afternoon as well. And that's kind of how things are looking. Like, we're still going to have some showers likely early Sunday, but the weekend's shaping up to be not too bad. And Saturday, if you're betting, hedging your bets, Saturday's the best, okay? So this evening, 7 degrees, down to 2 degrees overnight, but tomorrow we are going to see a high of 12 degrees. The winds will be coming out of the east, but not terribly strong, okay? And then later in the day on Saturday, we will begin to see some of those clouds increasing as that next system is sliding a little bit closer to the lower Great Lakes. So there's your Saturday forecast. Let me also show you what happens into the second part of the weekend. So as that system comes through, we are looking at least some morning showers likely coming through. Now, there is a much more enhanced risk of this from Hamilton around through Burlington, all around the southern portion of the Golden Horseshoe, okay, through Niagara Falls. Much greater chance of seeing the showers. 12 degrees, though, for the GTA, if we can especially get some of this clearing into the afternoon hours. Now, Monday, still looking like either a mix of sun and cloud or a little extra cloud cover there, but look at these temperatures. 12 degrees, I mean, this is more like it, closer to seasonal, and in fact, we're just about there when we get to Tuesday with a high of 14 degrees, a mix of sun and cloud, and on our doorstep then for midweek is the next system, and this one I'm watching carefully, Dwight, because that could be a significant rainmaker.
Thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
That is our show for tonight. Thank you for joining us. Mike Wise has your next local news tonight after the National at 11. Before we go, we'd like to show you a video released today by the Toronto Symphony Orchestra, a partner showing us what it's like for them while still managing to do what they love while isolating. I'm going to shut up now and let you enjoy some of this. Have a great weekend, everybody, and stay safe.